Just because you can charge premium pricing doesn't mean that you should. It means that you should have a delicate balance of basically what I call the 4 pillars of the perfect pricing. Hey, it's Joel Irway, and welcome to another very special episode of Sold with Webinars, the High Ticket Courses Book Preview Edition. So today we're going to be talking about part 7. Where are we? We're on part 7, and we're talking about the perfect pricing model. If you haven't grabbed your copy of High Ticket Courses yet, go to book.highticketcourses.com and grab yourself a copy. You are absolutely going to love it. Today we're going to talk about the perfect pricing for figuring out what the price of your high ticket course is going to be. The story I want to tell you today is kind of, the downside of, charging premium prices. And this is something that many people don't talk about. Anyone can stand out there and say, you should raise your rates. You should just increase your prices without giving any sort of logical consideration. And so this is going to serve as a warning to you and also a solution as to what you do to avoid this from happening. So back in the end of 2017, I had just done a launch for our agency, and we'd closed about $100,000 in new business for our agency. I was very, very excited. And I was kicking it off, getting our team on board with all these clients, and it was a very, very exciting time. Anytime you have a big successful launch, you go through this massive wave of euphoria, and it becomes quite the roller coaster. Well, it turned out that we had some issues with fulfilling, and this was the first time that we had charged this new price level, and so we were running into some issues fulfilling on our promises. Not good, right? What ended up happening was, we had these issues that we just really couldn't overcome, and we ended up refunding probably 60 to 70% of our clients' revenue. And so that was $60,000 to $70,000 of refunds that we had to process. Now, imagine going through this massive wave of euphoria only to come crashing down a couple of months later when I had to refund these clients. And so it's a gut-wrenching feeling of not only just seeing all that money disappear from your bank account in one fell swoop. I had to pay all my contractors. I had to pay my team. So that's also money gone. And it made me look not the greatest to those clients that I had to refund. And so the moral of this story is, just because you can charge premium pricing doesn't mean that you should. It means that you should have a delicate balance of basically what I call the 4 pillars of the perfect pricing. And so if you go through these 4 pillars, you're going to have a much better idea of how to price your premium products or your premium courses, so you don't run into the same issues that I have. And so the first pillar of designing your perfect pricing is perceived value. Does your perceived value live up to what you want to charge? Is that result that you're promising them really something that is 10 times the value in their mind? That's the first thing. And you have to make sure that this is going to be true. You have to make sure that all 4 of these things are going to be true in order for you to come up with a solid price of what you want to charge for your high ticket course, your high ticket program. The second pillar of the perfect pricing is comfortability in delivering. So you could come up with this, this price, you could come up with this offer, you could come up with this program, and the bottom line is you have to be able to deliver, right? Now, you do want to push your comfort zone, and you do want to, stretch your limits a bit, because as we start to develop offers, especially if you're in a competitive niche, sometimes you're going to have to come up with unique or creative ways to break through in the market. And that could be, coming up with stronger promises, stronger guarantees, stronger results. But ultimately, you have to have some sort of strong comfort level in being able to deliver those results. Now, assuming you do have that comfort level, then we can move on to pillar number 3, which is your market being willing and able to afford this. And so coming up with a $100,000 offer to a broke audience, obviously you're going to have very, very little success. And so making sure that we have this price, this offer aligned with a market that is willing and able, that is a pretty big requirement in order to be successful in charging premium prices. Now, the fourth and final pillar with our perfect pricing is making sure that we can provide those results. Are those results that we're providing our clients, our customers, our students, are they worth what we are charging? And so getting all four of those aligned allows us to come up with that perfect pricing. And I will say probably the most important one is your comfort level in being able to provide those results that you are promising. When I'm working with clients and they are newer in the space, they always ask me, "Well, Joel, what should I price this at? How does $5,000 sound? How does $10,000 sound?" And I said, well, we go through this exact same exercise, this exact same explanation that I just walked through with you. And I'll basically say, number one, how's the value? How's the perceived value? Right? Number two, what's the comfort level in you being able to actually, deliver these results? Number three, is your market willing and able to pay for this? Do they have history of paying that type of price for a similar result? And number four, what are the results that you actually provide, and how are they aligned with what you want to charge? And so, what I normally tell people is you want to start on the lower end and then gradually work your way up. And going back to the story that I talked about earlier on when we first started this podcast, this first episode, I made a big jump in pricing. It went up, thousands of dollars, and I also expanded my promise and my deliverable, and my guarantee, and that is what really got me in trouble. It's not necessarily the price jump; it was the promise and the guarantee that got me in trouble. And so, I want you to think about that, because that is how I want you to think about pricing, and how I want you to think about perfect pricing, because it's extremely important. If you've never charged, $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, or $10,000 for an offer, you're probably a bit nervous and wanting to make sure that you can actually fulfill on it. So I'd always recommend starting lower, and then as you get results, gradually increase those prices until you hit that perfect medium of getting very little resistance from your prospects, and you being able to crush the results for them. So, make sense? All right, so that is it for today's episode. If you are interested in grabbing your copy of High Ticket Courses, the book, the beautiful book, the book that is graced the presence of hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of buyers so far, which I'm hoping that you are one of them, go to book.highticketcourses.com, grab yourself a copy, and I'll see you on the next episode. Take care.